All right. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. To today's adult forum. It is my great privilege to introduce my friend Robin Mayer, who is now the development specialist. Is that right? Development director, development person, magic person for Family Promise. And I got to know Robin originally because our kiddos were in Girl Scouts together. And you might remember Robin previously worked for HRDC, which you've seen here before, but has now switched over to Family Promise. And we were supposed to have a sidekick from Deanna Benito's with us today, but they're ill, like a lot of people in town right now. So, please join me in welcoming Robin.
I do not love a microphone, but secretly I've always wanted to be a backup dancer, sort of like in Gladys Knight, so when Jean was up here, I kind of wanted to start. So, good morning. Thank you all for being here again. My name is Robin Meyer, and I'm with Family Promise. And I'm just going to start out with a little sort of spiel about what Family Promise does and how we've transitioned over the last, say, 3 or 4 years. I will touch a little bit about Ian Benito, so that is not my area of expertise, but I will answer as many questions as I possibly can about that organization. I just want to start out by seeing who has heard of Family Promise. Love it. This is the most hands raised that I've ever seen, so that is amazing. So Family Promise started in Bozeman in 2007. We are part of a national affiliate of about 200 Family Promises around the United States. It started in New Jersey by a woman who was walking to work. She was a professional woman, and she came upon another person who was experiencing homelessness, and they developed a very good friendship. And the woman who started Family Promise said, "Can I buy you some food? How can I help you?" And the woman who was experiencing homelessness said, "I just want to be able to tell you my story." So that started this very long-standing relationship. And the woman who started Family Promise knew that she didn't have a lot of resources to help this woman who was experiencing homelessness, but the resources that she did have were congregations. So she got together a group of congregations who started helping families who are experiencing homelessness on a rotational basis, meaning a family would spend 2 weeks at one church, then they would go to the next church, then they would go to the next church. And that is how Family Promise started here in 2007. We started as a rotational model as well. And as a result of COVID, we started doing a static model, which means that Family Promise has 2 emergency shelter locations and 9 transitional housing locations. So we sort of feel like when families were in rotational shelter, they got a roof over their heads and they had a community of people sort of wrap around them and take care of them, but it didn't stop families from feeling like they were homeless, because every 2 weeks, the people that they'd gotten to know and made friendships with, all of a sudden were rotated into a different group of people that you then have to learn how that community works, what style of food they provide. You have to sort of find your people in that. And in addition to that, when in a rotational style, families would be at congregations at 7 o'clock at night, and they would have to leave as early as 6 o'clock in the morning. So that just does not provide a lot of stability. So as a result of that, in COVID, we moved to this new model. So we are able to house up to 18 families who are experiencing homelessness. We also have prevention and stabilization programs. So prevention and diversion is how can we help a family before they become homeless? So in other words, if someone needs tenancy education or landlord mediation, or we had a family who had a daughter who was born with a cardiac challenge. expenses, and they needed to leave in 6 weeks in Salt Lake City. We were, and think about all the expenses that go with not being in your own place, right? They had to buy food out, they had transportation, and they had lodging. So they were behind on their bills, so we were able to come in and pay their rent while they were in Salt Lake City. So there are a couple of different programs like that. We also so we finished the capital campaign for a new building, which is located behind Lowe's. And that new building is 18,000 square feet, and it not only houses all of our offices and our family resource center, but it houses Rising Stars Early Learning Center. And what I love tremendously about Rising Stars is that we provide early learning for kids 0 to 5, regardless of their parents' or family's ability to pay. So we provide a STEM-based education, and we also provide scholarships for the kids who aren't able to pay. I think that is a tremendous benefit to the community, because early learning is the time when sort of all of your social and emotional functions begin, and that is incredibly important. That is the time when you're getting prepared for an education in perhaps public school. Any questions so far? Then I'll play a quick video. Then we can talk a little bit more, and I'll try and answer questions about Family Promise and the NWO.
Two kids, no house or car. I'm hopping from hotel to hotel, to car to hotel, using whatever resource I could. It was a lot of struggles and ups and downs, and depression and motivation. So, broken and lost, and everybody kept pointing me to the Family Promise. I was a little skeptical at first, but I regret that I didn't do it sooner.
Moved to Montana for, a change of pace, a change of life, to start over brand new, fresh. Ended up in Bozeman. We decided to stay here. So we started looking for different places to live, and we were having a really difficult time. We were staying in hotels, and it was starting to get concerning of how we're going to provide for, our children. Life was hard. Family Promise, they helped us to begin again. They were really inviting. They welcomed us in. I'm so happy that I was referred to them, because honestly, I don't know where we would be at right now.
Family Promise has worked with families that are experiencing homelessness, and it really looks at the situation holistically. Really, our mission is to end family homelessness in Gallatin Valley. We, look at each family uniquely, and we say, what is their path, and we develop that path with them.
Family Promise is a great resource. Incredible people. Really nice people that I met. And it was nice having a case manager kind of help me with resources and help me get my foot in all the doors.
Having that structure and guidance helped us with getting, on our feet again.
I think Family Promise helps anybody that needs our assistance. Really, families can be in crisis, and we give them the opportunity to, look at everything that's going on and give that sense of success. Our shelter model is specifically you have a bed to sleep, we'll give you a bed to sleep, but they're going to work so hard to get out of this situation.
They definitely push you up to be who you meant to be.
They let us stay there, they helped us find employment, and eventually our own place to live.
Transitional housing was the biggest handout.
focus on, okay, what is that practice sustainability so we don't end up back. About 70% of our families are actually single mothers. They would find a job, and they sort of accept that job, and then they would realize how hard it was to find childcare. I've talked to too many families in life about whether they should pay childcare or pay their rent. We knew how to address it right away, and so by building this center that's going to have 96 spots for children, it allows us to work with the families we currently have, but also open it to communities and hopefully help address that huge issue that we're seeing overall.
They just want to help. I mean, everyone's important, and they see that my family is just doing great. My husband's employed. I just recently got promoted.
Moved to Idaho. I become a plumber slowly but surely. Got two beautiful kids and fiance. Couldn't be more thankful for the people that came in my life through family times. Gallatin, angels, those these are all angels. As soon as we do, just keep going, keep fighting. The biggest challenge is rewarding.
Everything is amazing right now. And I'm so happy. I really am. I mean, life's good.
Before I open it up to questions, I just want to pose a few statistics to you all. First of all, in the city that we live in and in Montana, it is more expensive to send your children to early learning than it is to send them to Montana State University. So that is a statistic that has stuck with me and continues to stick with me. As Crystal said in the video, there are so many families that we work with who literally have to choose between going to work, paying for rent, or paying for medicine. And that is not something that we ever want for members of our communities. We work really hard to make sure that resources are in place. At Rising Stars, as she said, we provide 96 kiddos with the opportunity for early learning. Right now, about 50% of those kids are on scholarships and 50% are full pay. So the folks who are on scholarship are on graduated scholarships based on their real income and their real bills. So we are happy to provide that for them. The other 50% are full pay in the community who come to Rising Stars because we're a STEM-based early learning center and we are incredibly culturally aware. And we want to make sure that the families who come to us and who are at Rising Stars are able to maintain a sense of their culture. We hire bilingual teachers so that no child is ever left behind. Another thing that I want to let you all know is that when Alex was talking about transitional housing, so we have 9 transitional housing units, and the families will sometimes move from shelter into transitional housing. Sometimes shelter, emergency shelter just won't work for them. So they move into transitional housing. While they're in transitional housing, they pay a graduated rent. So they might start out paying $150, and after their 2 years or however long they stay with us, they might be up to $700 in rent. The thing about that is that half of that money goes toward operations of that house. The other half goes into a savings account for those folks. So there have been 2 instances in the last 3 years, and this is certainly not the rule, this is the exception, but 2 instances where families have come out of transitional housing and put a down payment on their own home. But again, that is the exception, not the rule. They are able to use that money for whatever benefits them, whether it's transportation or a down payment on a rental or first and last month's rent, whatever that looks like to them. Questions?
What do you see as the biggest need right now in
Well, I am the development director, so you know the first thing that's going to go to my mind. I'm going to be really honest and say that we don't own either of our emergency shelter locations. And we feel like in this environment, we are always at risk for losing them. So we are actively looking for our own shelter location. I think what's interesting is that as I sort of alluded to in the video, Family Promise is a full-time job, and we feel like families choose us. We provide comprehensive case management for up to 2 years, and that doesn't fit a lot of the typical emergency shelter location models, and we feel like having an emergency shelter location that is our own will help empower our families to succeed, because that shelter will be filled with people who are sort of like-minded. So I would say first and foremost, we're looking for a location. We received a $1 million pledge for that. It's Bozeman, Montana. I'm not sure how far $1 million is actually going to go, but we are leaving no stone unturned in order to acquire something. And in fact, we know that once something hits the real estate market, we're too late as it is. So we've put every piece of funding together that is necessary, and we have a group of board and volunteers who are looking into a shelter location for us, so that when something happens, we're ready to move on.
Can you describe an emergency shelter? What does that mean?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. So, a family came to us literally. This is how it happened. They were leaving a reservation and their car broke down, and it was by Family Promise. They had nowhere to go, so we were able to put them in emergency shelter. What that looks like for us is it is a room in a hotel. It is one room on the third floor of a hotel, one room regardless of the number of people in that family. The hotel that we're currently at doesn't have cooking facilities, so that's why we have the Family Resource Center at our location. The Family Resource Center has bathrooms, laundry that never stops running, and it has a full commercial kitchen so that families can come and cook meals. We have computers there. That's where they meet with case managers. So I would say emergency shelter is very basic, very basic. And the people average about 81 days in emergency shelter before they either move into one of our transitional housing units, or we hope move into somewhere else in the community that is sustainable and affordable housing for them.
So the follow-up, you're looking for a house to buy for this, or are you looking to spot build, or?
We need more than a house. We need, our dream is to have something that houses up to 40 families. What that looks like to us is maybe a defunct church, or a hotel that is for sale, or there is a rest home that we were looking at. So something like that. We do not want to build. Yeah, and there's too many places that are sitting open right now that it just wouldn't make sense for us to build. And we just came out of a capital campaign for that building, and we don't necessarily want to have to go back into another capital campaign. We want to make sure that all of our funding is lined up in advance. So In the old Family Promise model, we were located, our day center was located on Story Street, and we did the rotational shelter model. Since that time, the number of families that we have served has increased 685%. We went from a staff of 4 to now a staff of 35. Yeah. Really, family homelessness is invisible. You do not see it. They are not the people who are flying signs on the street. Parents who have children don't want to be visible because they are afraid that their children will get taken away from them. So we have very good relationships with the local law enforcement, and in fact, maybe about 6 months or so ago, we had a sheriff show up at our door with a woman and 4 kids and 3 suitcases, and said, "How can you help this family?" And we were able to get them into emergency shelter right away. Yeah. I guarantee you might hear of them, but you don't see them.
Can you share a little bit about the other organizations in town that Family Promise partners with? Did I just see something about the food bank, a new thing with the food bank too?
So we partner with the food bank in order to provide food in our family resource center. We obviously partner with HRBC when they see families who are experiencing homelessness. They refer, the majority of the time, they refer those families to us. You know what, we don't do what we do alone, ever. We partner with Thrive, you name it, and we partner with them. There's no way, as people say, and it sounds trite, but it's true, it takes a village to take care of one another and families who are experiencing homelessness. Should we talk briefly about Bienvenidos?
Yes, please.
So, and again, I want to be very clear that this is not my area of expertise and that I can provide you with resources beyond what I'm telling you. So Bienvenidos is a nonprofit that started here in about 2020. And their goal is to welcome migrant families into Montana and to provide them with the resources to empower them to become successful. So whether that means interpreters for doctor's appointments, or housing through Family Promise, or physical, mental, or mental health care through community health partners, that is their one and only goal. And right now, I think that they're serving about 60 families. They are a volunteer-only organization, so they don't have a development director or an executive director. They only are mentors to these families in our community. Questions?
How do people find them?
I'm sorry?
How do people find them?
I think that's a great question, and I would say that if we're talking specifically about the Latinx community, that there is a very substantial word of mouth. Okay. So when a family ends up arriving in Bozeman and they need services, they're going to go to someone who is bilingual and who has those resources, and I think that other people in the community will refer them to Bienvenidos. That is the largest growing population that we have in the Bozeman community. It's people from Latin countries. Does anyone want to know why they come here?
Why did you come here?
Thank you for asking. So when I was on the phone this morning, so I was hoping to have a co-presenter who, as Lindsay said, was sick, but I put in a lot of phone calls this morning to sort of mine this information. And one of the people that I spoke with said that she is working with a family from Honduras. And she said that Honduras right now can be very, very violent, and that there are a lot of gangs in Honduras, and this family was fleeing that and hoping for a better life in the United States.
Are they mostly illegal or legal?
You know what? We don't know because we don't ask. And I would say that whether someone is undocumented or not does not mean that they should not receive the same services that everyone else receives. Or I would say the same humanity that everyone else receives.
Must be quite a shock to them.
So thank you for saying that, because she said to me in that prompt, she said, tell them, imagine being in a country where you are 100% beholden to those people. You don't speak the language, you don't eat the food, you just don't know anything about it. I can't imagine the loneliness that, and probably the despair that must feel like. But even all of the things taken into consideration, I would say that it's probably better than what they have experienced in their home country. Allison?
Yeah, well, I was just going to add, and Robin, I would love to know if this is true of family promise families, but recently, Rising Stars, for the family conversation, where I had filed across talking about and the other people that are income. I work closely with that group in my professional life, and they're doing a lot in the Latinx community. And a lot of the families they're treating have come here for construction jobs. So all of the growth that's happening, and I would say the majority of the people they're seeing in the clinics that they're running are undocumented, which is why they're having a really difficult time getting access to things like healthcare and housing.
I don't doubt that, but again, I would say that I know this is controversial, but I'm going to say it, is that for Bienvenidos and for family promise, it doesn't matter. Like, and again, I understand I'm probably digging myself into a hole, and I'm going to be sorry in a minute that this is being recorded, but every family, children, families, and individuals deserve basic human rights, regardless of who they are, whether they're documented or undocumented, whether they're migrants, whether they're fourth generation Bozemanites like myself. It doesn't matter. We all deserve basic human rights.
I think, just the sense of what the services that are available, I see at the food bank where they are now for the intake, they're always trying to have somebody who speaks Spanish.
Yes.
And so I think just what the Valley is seeing and different services they are seeing, how important to them is to be able to help them and make them feel a little bit more at ease.
We cannot explain that importance enough. The person who was going to be here presenting with me today is not only a mentor with Bienvenidos, but she is a family case manager with Family Promise. She is bilingual. We also employ 5 bilingual teachers in Rising Stars, so it's critical. And we had a person come to us and say that they can't believe the magic that happens at Rising Stars because their child comes home and speaks a different language. And that to me says everything about the world that I want to be living in and the world that I want my kids to be living in. Because that everyone is welcome and sort of lifted up for their unique abilities and really their unique coming forward.
Where is it at for capacity versus need?
I didn't look at the latest. We have what we call a watch list, And the watch list is a list of folks who either call us or who we know are either at risk for experiencing homelessness or who actively are experiencing homelessness. We average right around 25 to 30 people on that watch list. Yes, and I would say more often than not, we are always at capacity. There, in my opinion, there should never ever be a time when a room sits empty when we have families on board, ever.
So you said you just finished capital campaign. How are you funding? Are they counting money, city money? I don't know how to organize that.
Private donations, and we just took our first government grant in, I want to say last July maybe. We received $1 million from the state of Montana for our innovation in childcare, which goes directly to Rising Stars. And that will allow Rising Stars to be open earlier in the morning, open later at night, and one day on the weekend. Because again, we know if we're serving families who are the families that we serve don't work typical 9 to 5 hours. They work a variety of hours, and we're not doing them any favors if we're only providing child care from 7 in the morning until 5:30 at night. So that was the first time that we accepted government funds. So we're 100% funded by donations and grants.
Are you open for tours of your facility? Because I know that I was there for another organization, and it is so well thought out, and it's just to see the classrooms and to see where you can observe the kitchen. You know, I think the more people that are able to come and see it.
I could not agree with you more. That building, I had no part in that building, but I walk in and I think that this was a building that was designed with the future in mind. So we have classrooms on the bottom floor and the directors of Rising Stars. And then on the top floor we have our offices, the Family Resource Center, and we also have a hallway that we call Observation Hall that looks over the classrooms of the bigger kiddos. That is a partnership between us and Montana State University. There are certain disciplines at MSU where you need observation hours. So that is what we utilize that space for. And I think if you're a parent and you're not used to sending your kids to daycare, then that is an opportunity for you to walk up the stairs, to look and to make sure that everything is as it should be and that your child and children are thriving.
Do you ever need for volunteers?
Consistently, yes. And actually, Lindy and I were speaking briefly before this. So we serve meals on Mondays and Thursdays, and those meals are provided by partnership congregations. So both Lindy and I feel that when we went from a rotational model to a static model, the congregations lost their sense of community with the families that we serve, but also the families that we serve lost a sense of community. So because we're no longer doing that, we have decided to try this model out. So every Monday and Thursday, congregations are invited to come and provide meals for the families that we serve, and that is in the Family Resource Center at our location behind Lowe's. So we hope that sort of checks a box a little bit for people who are less, Lynn kind of beautifully sort of reading about the loss of contact with these families that they have invested so much time into.
Can you talk a little bit about springing into action? Will there be an opportunity for our congregation to get involved with that?
Absolutely. So we are hosting the second annual Spring into Action on April 29th, and that is just a day where we invite volunteers to come and help us with our, if we need fence painted at a transitional housing unit, or if we want to put a garden in. We will also be at many grocery stores on that day for a supply drive. So Family Promise provides all of the necessities, not only for the families that we serve, but for the families in Rising Stars as well. So we provide 100% of the diapers, 100% of the wipes, all the things. So Bring Into Action will be an opportunity to kind of buoy the stores that we use so frequently. We also have, on the last day of school, so last year I was driving around with my daughter, who is now 12, and it was maybe April, and we were talking about the last day of school, trying to decide what she wanted to do, and I was like, Robin, what are you doing? I'm so privileged to be able to provide this to my daughter that it was something that I wanted to provide to the rest of the community. So the executive director gave me full reign, and I had our first annual summer kickoff carnival that is free for families, and we had Exo Country was grilling, we had a dunk tank, we had inflatables, we had face cleaning, and all of the things that make up a carnival, and we had it in our parking lot. And I thought, I'm going to be lucky if 50 people show up. We had 400 people. So, which was the best thing that I've ever seen, because to welcome families, not only that we serve, but families in our community to come to this amazing carnival event for free is sort of one of the highlights of my professional career, to be honest with you. So we will be having that on, I want to say June 8th, maybe? Yeah. Allison is kind enough to be on my fund development committee. So she helps with all things fundraising and preparing for things as well. Anything else? I appreciate the hard questions. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Bring it, Jen!
Anything else that you people should know that we haven't asked that's important that we know?
I think it's all. I think. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to add, I'm thinking of like more volunteer opportunities. So like Rising Stars has volunteers in the kitchen all week long for the kiddos.
Correct.
And that's something I did before Margaret came along, and I had my sanity a little bit. But that's like a really easy way, and like there's just a lot of, like, to your question, like tangible ways I think for us to get involved, whether it's one day or Bring Into Action, or like, you know,